Let us imagine building a city made out of Lego blocks. Each block is a tiny building with its own purpose, but together they create something amazing. That's how object-oriented programming works. And today, we'll be discussing about that in this new episode of Code Rush. Instead of writing long blocks of code, we just simply create objects that hold both data and functions. Let us explore what OOP really is and why it is so powerful. The object-oriented programming is a programming method that uses an object that represents real-world things. OOP helps to organize and simplify code, making it easier to reuse and update the program. It's like creating many things in code, and each object has its own function. We have a simple analogy. Think of a car. A car has many parts such as engine, wheels, doors, and it can do things like drive, brake, and honk.
Let's talk about procedural programming and object-oriented programming. Procedural programming, in simple terms, this is a style of programming where the focus is on writing procedures or functions that carry out tasks step by step. The main goal here is to break down the program into smaller parts or procedures to make it easier to manage. Now, on the other hand, we have object-oriented programming or OOP. This style focuses on objects instead of just procedures. Objects are like packages that combine both data and the functions that can work on that data. So instead of only telling the computer step by step what to do, we build objects that represent real-world things and let them interact. This makes the code more reusable and organized.
So what exactly are the advantages of using object-oriented programming over procedural programming? With OOP, you only need to write one bark method inside a dog class. Then you can create as many dog objects as you want, and each of them can bark using a single method. Another big advantage of using OOP is that it makes your program more secure. In procedural programming, your data is usually just a regular variable. That means anyone in the code can change it anytime. Imagine you're building an app that tracks a user bank balance. If the balance is just normal variable, another programmer's small mistake could easily mess it up.
As part of this episode, we will introduce three basic concepts of OOP, starting with the object, along with encapsulation, and lastly, the inheritance.
Now, let's dive into one of the most fundamental concepts in object-oriented programming, the object. In simple terms, an object is a real-world entity that we represent in code. It can be anything like a car, a student, or a smartphone. In programming, an object is created from something called a class, which acts like a blueprint. The object itself is an instance of that class. Each object contains two main things, attributes and methods. Attributes, which are the object's properties, like color, model, or battery life. Methods, which are the actions the object can perform, like drive, charge, or play music.
The second basic concept of OOP is encapsulation. This concept hides the internal details or the data of an object and only shows what is necessary. But here's a question. How do we be able to access the data, methods, and other functions of an object? We have this called the accessor and the mutator. Let us define first what is the accessor. The accessor or a getter method is a public method that returns data from a private instance variable. And the mutator or a setter method is a public method that changes the data stored in one or more private instance variables. These methods give control over how data is accessed or modified. Let us have a simple analogy. Airplane cockpit and passengers. Passengers don't see or control the cockpit instruments. They only interact with seatbelts, buttons for lights, food, and flight attendants. All the complex flying system stays hidden. The encapsulation here is the cockpit, which is hidden, and the passengers use simple controls.
Now we're going to be talking about what is inheritance in object-oriented programming. Inheritance is a fundamental concept in OOP that allows a new class to inherit properties and behaviors, like fields and methods, from an existing class. Let us know what are the few keywords used in inheritance. First is the superclass. This is usually the parent class. Subclass is the child class, which inherits the code from the parent. Extends is to show that a child class is inheriting from a parent. And lastly, super lets a child class access things from its parent. Now, let's look at a simple example using animal as the parent class and dog as the child class. Here, animal is the parent class and it has the eat method. Dog is the child class that extends animal, so it automatically inherits the eat method without us writing it again. At the same time, the dog class can have its own special method like bark, which only dogs can use. The cool thing about this is that we don't have to rewrite the eat method for every single animal.